Our first step is to record a very simple macro that will go through the process of formatting a cell as the person in my Excel class wanted to do. It really doesn't matter what cell we start with, just choose any cell in the worksheet. The important thing is to plan out your strategy before you start to record the macro. Think about the steps that you're going to use in order to format this cell. We're going to apply bold, we're going to change the font color, we're going to change the font background, and we're going to change the border. Now, all of those settings are on the home ribbon. So after we start to record the macro, I'm going to go to the home ribbon and start to make those changes. It's really important as we're recording the macro that you don't go do something else. Don't suddenly go select other cells or open other files because those actions will be recorded as part of the macro. It's also excellent if you can make sure that your manager doesn't call for the next 2 minutes because then you'll have to go open a file. Now, I realize you have no control over that, but we can just keep our fingers crossed and hope that that doesn't happen. Okay, so to start recording a macro, we're going to choose the Record Macro button in the Developer ribbon. There are a few choices here in the Record Macro dialog box. The first thing we have to do is give the macro a name. Now, you're not allowed to have any spaces in the name, but you can put a couple of words there without the spaces in between. A great name for this macro would be called Format Blue. If we wanted to, we could assign a shortcut key, but in this case, I'm not going to do that. We have a choice to either store the macro in this workbook, which means that it would only be available in this particular file, or to store the macro in our personal macro workbook, which will make it available for all workbooks that we ever open on this machine. It would help to add a little description. Okay, now when you press the OK button, the macro recorder will begin. This is the point where you want to take deliberate actions to record just the steps that you need for your macro. First, we'll go to the Home ribbon. I want to choose the bold icon, change the font color to blue, and change the fill color to a light blue. And I need to apply some borders, but they're not standard borders that are in the Borders dropdown, so I'm going to go directly to the Format Cells dialog box. Now, Format Cells, you can still get there with Control-1, just like you always could in the old versions of Excel, or you can use the More icon in the lower right-hand corner of any of the groups on the Home ribbon. The More icon is actually an icon that defies description. It's this tiny little dot that maybe looks like an arrow in the lower right-hand corner. Click that icon, and you will go to the Format Cells dialog box. This should be familiar to you because it's been the same dialog box for several versions of Excel. We'll go to the Border tab. I appreciate how Microsoft has actually reorganized the Border tab of Format Cells. The flow is now left to right. You have to choose a line style first, and then a color, and then apply your borders. I'll choose a thick line style, and then a dark blue color. And finally, say that I want that to be on the top and bottom using the border outline. Click OK to close the Format dialog box, and we've now formatted one cell. At this point, it's time to stop recording the macro and see how it worked. We could go back to the Developer tab to press Stop Recording, but in the lower left-hand corner, next to the word Ready in the status bar, is a tiny square which is the Stop Recording button. Click that button to stop recording. Well, there you go. You've just recorded your first macro. Congratulations. Now, let's try it out and see how it worked. We're going to select another cell and go to the Developer tab to access the macro list. On the Developer tab, click the Macros button. You'll see that you only have one macro in this workbook, so it's already selected. You can click the Run button to see how it works. There we go. It looks perfect. Let me select another cell so we can make sure that it actually worked. Sure enough, the border has dark blue on the top and bottom, light blue background, dark blue bold text. Now I can hear what you're saying. You're saying, oh wait, having to go to the Developer tab and press macros and choose the thing and click Run, that's 4 clicks in itself. That isn't any better than the original process. Well, let me show you how to add an icon to the Quick Access toolbar so that way this will be a single click.